Finally, something to be bullish about in this market. This price action this weekend has been absolutely phenomenal. And I just want to cover this because there's nothing really to cover, right? Everyone's just mentally masturbating over the same damn information. Bitcoin is bullish. We've been waiting for the summer to end, and the summer has now ended. October is here. The pump has started. Now, the most bullish thing that's happened in the last week is the fact that this price action that we've seen has happened as a result of nothing that MSTR has done. MSTR has bought 0 new Bitcoin. Saylor has bought 0 new Bitcoin. And now the price has still managed to maintain above 123. We're currently sitting at 124.451. Everyone got super excited. We hit 125. We had to come down. Why did we have to come down? Because there's a CME gap. And I know I'm the only one that keeps talking about these CME gaps and everyone kind of hates it. But the reality is, until the CME moves to a 24-hour trading on Bitcoin futures to match the spot markets, which they've said they're going to do, until that happens, you're going to deal with CME gaps. Now, are they accurate every single time? No. Is there a time limit on them? Kind of. But 90% of the time, gaps get filled. Right? 90% of the time. This breakout also kind of feels a bit too early to me, and I think we may have a little bit of waiting to do, but we'll see, right? We'll see. Worst case scenario, we go past the gap, doesn't matter, and then we come fill it at a later date, or we don't fill it at all. But 90% of the time, the gaps damn well get filled, right? So it's important to kind of pay attention to them. But this price action is extremely bullish, right? The fact that we've managed to do this price action, this movement, without MSTR buying any Bitcoin, the fact that we've come down below the futures high and opened, a new futures contract, a new futures market, a new futures trading week, without staying above and causing another price gap. This is all extremely bullish, right? And it's almost to the point where, like, you know me, right? One of the reasons why I want you to subscribe is that I like doing videos when there's actually something to talk about, and there hasn't been anything to talk about, right? I see all this Bitcoin content, all this mental masturbation. People are now coming out and saying, that BlackRock is going to secretly take your Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. I saw a video from Archie Bitcoin, which, by the way, I love that podcast, right? But with Simon Dixon talking about this. I've been saying this for 2 years now, right? This is not a secret. BlackRock's plan is to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible. They don't care how it's done. They want to take it. And the way they're going to take it, just like any other fair market, like Bitcoin is they're going to bore you to death this time until you hand over your Bitcoin. You know how many people this summer have lost their Bitcoin? You can see it in the price action. The fact that we've just been sort of going sideways in this market, right? While people have been getting so emotional on X and whatever else. And by the way, there are people actively monetizing your emotions in Bitcoin right now, right? And again, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. Where if there is a market that's stupid, right, which is basically all the new holders of Bitcoin, you got to go take it. And that's what's happening. Market makers are taking it. Bitcoiners that are in, businesses around Bitcoin are taking it. If you're going to be making yourself available for the taking, you will be taken. It's as simple as that. So how many people have lost their Bitcoin, do you think, over this summer period, right? It's a ton. A ton of Bitcoin has been pivoted, whether it's gone into treasury companies at 7XM NAVs, whether it's gone into the ETF, whatever, right? At the end of the day, BlackRock doesn't want to come and take, when people say that, it's not like they want to come and steal your Bitcoin from you by force. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is they want it under the control of their IBIT product. And IBIT is a great product. Again, I was saying that. Everyone was terrified of this product because they don't understand how markets work. IBIT has been a phenomenal success for BlackRock. I said it would be right from the beginning, and now they're going to do everything they can to basically secure as much Bitcoin within IBIT as possible. And you know, for some people, I know many people that have told me that they've sold their spot Bitcoin and put it into IBIT. I know Plan B has done the same thing as well, because, you know, depending on what level you're working at, like for example, if I go to a private bank, right? I've had 2 private bankers now from 2 different countries tell me that they can hedge and offer financing on IBIT, but they can't do it on spot Bitcoin, right? Yet. It will come at some point. But the issue with spot Bitcoin is that orchestrating, you know, a loan product is going to be difficult. So they're going to want some form of custody over that Bitcoin. You will be able to do it at some point, but you can do it right now on IBIT, right? You can sell your Bitcoin, buy it back on IBIT, and immediately get funding at central bank rates, depending on, you know, what sort of net worth you're dealing with. What I'm talking about at this point is private banking level and above. You're going to be able to get, you know, I've been offered basically Swiss National Bank rates on the Swiss franc if I want it on IBIT, right? And that's just too tempting to ignore, right? Especially if you're dealing with people with significant assets who understand how asset protection structures work and all this other stuff. Like, it just doesn't make sense at this point to hold spot Bitcoin, you know, in the majority when you can have these facilities and tools available to you, especially if your Bitcoin's already in a trust, right? Your Bitcoin's already protected through certain asset protection structures. It's already being part custodied, et cetera, et cetera. It makes more sense to use these facilities to get the lending and everything else that's available. Now that's going to completely set off all of the, you know, hillbilly Bitcoiners and the $1,000 net worthers that are fighting the system, right? Everyone wants to kind of fight the system, and they don't have the net worth to do it, right? At the end of the day, the system is the system. That doesn't mean you got to bend over to the system, and I believe that Bitcoin as an asset is the most it's the most honest asset that humanity has ever created. You know, gold can be screwed around with, equities, of course, can be screwed around with, real estate can be artificially screwed around with, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been saying that you got to get as much Bitcoin as possible, get to at least 1 Bitcoin for the majority of people, because it is the most honest asset. And of course, you can take possession of it if you wish, right? And this is really important for most people, especially now. You got the UK talking about digital IDs, you got all this other stuff coming politically in the world. Bitcoin is that one thing that will sit there and be a hedge for you, right? But again, I have not been this bullish for months on Bitcoin. I'm looking at the price chart right now. Like, I think I was this bullish probably in like 2020, right? I think the last cycle was a little bit underwhelming. I am so incredibly bullish now. You got the C-suite of the US government, you got Wall Street involved, you got every single person across the whole chain. You got CNBC talking about Bitcoin every single day. They almost can't get over not talking about it. To put the cherry on the top, retail is not talking about Bitcoin. How do we know that? We know that because Google Trends on Bitcoin are not showing any lift whatsoever. So retail is the one that's going to come in and pump this thing, you know, 2x when we're close to any kind of top. Now, I will say that based on this price action, I want to kind of adapt something I was saying a few months ago, which is that I'm more convinced right now than at any moment in this cycle that we are going to see a traditional 4-year cycle kind of play out. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm happy to see that, you know, if this just continues up, I don't know what's going to happen. But I'm more convinced than ever that we are going to see a traditional cycle play out. And what is a traditional cycle? We're going to see a 4-year pump, and then a 2.5-year consolidation, and then, you know, a rise after that. I'm more convinced of that than ever. We've got no strategic reserve actually, you know, in effect. All the people that, you know, were talking about the Trump strategic reserve, basically nothing's happened yet. The only time that will happen is when they start buying the Bitcoin, right? Everything else is irrelevant. Buy the Bitcoin. Don't care about nothing else. Don't care about how, you know, good you are and how many good things you say about Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. The reality is whoever's in the background is basically stacking their bags, right? We can see that they're stacking the bags. getting ready for that. That might come in a year, it might come in 2 years. All the great people doing great work, Bitcoin Policy Institute and everyone else, they'll get it done at some point, right? But I have a feeling that Bitcoin is about to sniff out incoming liquidity, and then we are going to see a repeat of a 4-year cycle. Do I think, now here's the caveat where I said it's kind of the same. Do I think that it's going to be the same as in we're going to see a 90% drawdown? No. I think we're going to see kind of like a 60 to 70% drawdown, which, by the way, would be an order of magnitude difference when you look at like how the price action works. So I don't think we're going to see, you know, this constant, just steady up and to the right type of thing, because the price action is quite exciting, right? But I also don't think you're going to see that 90% drop. So we're pending to see what happens here. And of course, I'm thinking about what moves I'm going to make, which is why I want you to subscribe to the channel, because we need to figure out how are we going to hedge this, right? What do we need to hedge, right? If it goes up from here, basically 25,000 at a time, and then retraces, and 25,000 and retraces, and 25,000 and retraces, we're not going to see any kind of major bear market. So how do you hedge that? If it runs up from here and goes to 350,000, right, or whatever, then how do you hedge that? Those are the types of conversations that I want to have, why I want you to subscribe to the channel, because I think that those are going to be important. And I'm not talking about selling anything. You don't have to sell to hedge, right? There's different ways and tools in the market available now that I want to talk about and share, you know, when I decide to do certain things, and depending on what I see in the market. But yeah, look, all this other Bitcoin content that's out there, I watch it and I'm just like, it's just a bunch of mental masturbation. The most exciting thing that we can see, that, well, right, for me anyway, is the performance of STRC, that MSTR, the preferred income product, because, you know, that's giving 10%. You can make 10% on your money, you shove it into there. They're now pursuing grading on that debt, which will allow people to actually invest in it in terms of funds, and it'll be backed by the power of Bitcoin. This is huge. This is absolutely huge information, and no one's even thinking about it, right? STRC will become a Bitcoin printing machine before anyone blinks an eye, and then on top of all of those things, that are all the dominoes that are lining up, you got the S&P 500 inclusion, you got all that other stuff happening for MSTR, and then on top of that, retail's not even paying attention. So I think the next few months are about to be really interesting. I'm bullish as fuck after many months on price action, based on what I've seen in the last weekend here. And we'll see what happens. I do think that maybe we're a little bit early right now. I kind of thought that we'd see like some kind of breakout around like the 2nd or 3rd week of October. It's kind of come a little bit early. We'll see whether that retraces and how that works out. But ultimately, there's always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.